August the 12th. Jeff Patterson is in for the vacation. Matt Sekeres, I'm Blake Price, and we are both at the Nation Network studio built by Arbor Lee at the Wall Center in downtown Vancouver, located in the heart of downtown Vancouver. Book your stay at the Wall, 604-331-1000. We're live on YouTube, most of your socials at 11:30. That's every day in the hockey season. It's when we say so. It's when the feeling moves us in the summertime. Make sure you do give us a follow on all your socials as well. A happy August the 12th to here on this Monday with the Olympics now in our rear view mirror. Man, what do we talk about now, Jeff Patterson? How are you?
I'm good, but I am a little bit out of my rhythm, I will admit. Got up this morning, the games weren't on TV, and I will say that I consumed way more of the Olympics than I thought I was going to. In fact, I remember in mid-July Googling who are Canada's medal hopefuls because I just felt out of sorts this cycle. Like I didn't have much of a sense of what we were getting, and my excitement level mid-July wasn't that high. I love the time change. Like get up at 6 a.m, flip on the TV, and boom, you're starting the afternoon over in Paris, and basically just left the TV on, and sort of background noise for a lot of days. But anytime that there was something big coming up, was right into it. So surprised myself a little bit by just how much of the Olympics I
You're
watched.
not alone, man. I am hearing this from everybody. I mean, the proof is there. The networks have enjoyed gangbuster ratings, and I think it's snuck up on everybody. I'm in the same boat as you are in terms of my preparation for the Olympics. I had really no idea what we were getting ourselves into, and my kids said the other day, like, two of them told me independently, which is 50% of the electorate. Like they're like, I don't want the Olympics to end. I don't want to not have what you're talking about. Waking up, what happened? What have we missed so far? What do we need to get caught up? And just ever present sports programming and kind of exciting things and return to we had moments cheering on swimming and track that you don't schedule that in. They're kind of impromptu moments in front of the tube. That is, it's really fun. Only the Olympics can give that to you.
And I'm not huge on like the pomp and circumstance of the opening and the closing, but I watched the closing ceremony yesterday, and I know it was remarked, and I flipped back and forth. I mean, I watched mostly on CBC, but at times I would flip over to American coverage as well. It was noted on both that because this was the first Summer Games after Tokyo, that that energy was there, and it kind of felt like it was needed, that this is what the world needed right now. I mean, there's so much bad stuff going on around the globe, but for 2 weeks, everybody got together. I thought Paris put on an incredible show from an organizational standpoint. I mean, the city, which is spectacular if you've been, but I thought it looked great. The venues, the way that they sort of played up the historical elements, like the women's, well, both men's and women's, but I watched the women's marathon yesterday. Like, not how I would tour Paris.
Really?
No, but just that course and the way it took all the way up to Versailles and back and through so many of the, the big tourist attractions that are spotted throughout a city like Paris. So again, I thought on TV, like the TV product looked great. And then, I mean, you're just hit by so many of the surprising stories, most of them good, but then there's always the heartache of the ones that, don't quite go the way that they were hoping. Like I knew coming in, Summer McIntosh, certainly knew that name. I mean, she will be the lasting memory, I think, for many of these games. And why not at 17 and already looking forward to 2028 and maybe beyond that as well. But then, to dominate the hammer throw the way that we did here in BC with our 2 gold medals, and then the men's 4x1 ultimately that sort of came out of nowhere. Like there were so many good moments. Phil Wizard.
Well, we'll get to Phil in just a second as part of the top story. By the way, the marathon swim is definitely not how you travel through Paris. Unless you want to go to the hospital. Our poll question, though, deals with what's next. And you talk about the excitement level and post-pandemic Olympics. It's going to be curious to see how we consume the 2028 games. A, it's in our time zone. B, Remember that first summer where the world was kind of open and everybody vacationed?
Yep.
And it was like this big exhale vacation summer for everybody. Was that what we just experienced Olympic wise? And will we still have the same appetite for it come 2028? We'll see in Los Angeles. But our poll question today, what new sport are you most looking forward to in the 2028 Summer Olympics? There's 5 of them. One's a returning sport, and a couple of these might have one day long ago been in the Olympics. I don't know. But baseball and softball have been intermittently in the Olympics, so we've excluded them from the poll. Plus, we've only got 4 slots anyway. T20 cricket is coming. It's, for lack of a better word, rugby sevens of cricket. Same thing with the lacrosse entry. It's lacrosse sixes. Same idea. Squash and flag football. Again, the 3 of those are variations of the mainstream version of the sport. And then there's squash, a racket sport that we were once top of the world in. Again, I have no idea where we're at right now. For a long time, we had the Tiger Woods of squash in Canada with Jonathan Power way back. But I don't know where we stand right now, but that was the Summer Olympics in LA's decision to bring in all of those sports, which brings us, well, first of all, let's analyze what your thoughts are on those sports.
Yeah, I mean, look, good Canadian. I should probably say lacrosse. I am curious to see what cricket looks like in a consumable presentation. Like, look, traditional cricket games can go for days.
Yes, not with this.
There is a finite amount of time to the Olympics, so you have to be able to squeeze it in. So I'm kind of curious to see, and the rise of cricket, obviously, is huge in other parts of the world and in highly populated countries, but we've seen growth along the way. So, I guess I want to see what it looks like.
So short handled. Cricket, by the way, T20, still 3.5 hour game.
Okay.
Like a long baseball
set
game.
Aside a block of time then to watch. And I'm kind of curious about flag football as well. Like, I get it. I've seen it. My kids haven't played it, but I see it being played in neighborhood parks and stuff. But, at the Olympic level, who's going to be involved? Like, sort of what level of performance are we going to see, and can we expect? And will we see? Because we've seen this as things like rugby sevens and other sports. Like football there's so many people that play football in the States, right? But only the select few and the percent of a percent get to the National Football League. But like, does this open up an avenue for really highly skilled athletes who maybe aren't going to make the NFL, but train to be an Olympian now? Like, that door is open, where before they would have to find other sports if they wanted to pursue a path to the Olympics. Now they can at least keep a semblance of the game they know. So I'm kind of curious to see what level we get for flag football.
Well, I think if the U.S. was allowed to field several teams, right, they would be very good. I mean, the U.S., you think, folks, about NCAA Division 1, 2, there might even be a Division 3 in football, NAIA, and there might be even Division 1, 2 of NAIA football, like
junior
colleges everywhere. They're all producing football players that are pretty good. The question is there enough other countries where it just doesn't become a men's basketball tournament?
Right. So I think I would vote lacrosse.
Yeah.
But I am curious about some of those other ones. And look, I'm a guy that wonders a little bit about the direction the Olympics is headed. I get trying to skew younger and trying to bring as many eyeballs as possible. I just don't know that every single activity, and because some of these aren't necessarily sports, but I don't know that every activity needs to be part of the Olympics. Like, have world championships, great. Define the best at whatever it is you're doing on the planet. I don't know that it all needs to be under the Olympic banner, but I say that kayak cross. Like, I got totally hooked on kayak cross. Drop it out of the chute to start, and then basically full contact kayaking.
Yeah. Well, it's difficult to not like any kind of race.
Yeah.
Like a race that, like, there's not many bad. I know people like to lament the walk, the race walking, but because for the most part, if you race in something and you throw a little bit of physical contact in there, people will watch it.
I would agree for the most part. I will say, I sat in front of my television on Saturday morning trying to figure out what the hell I was watching in indoor track cycling.
Track cycling, yeah. I know.
The race that had like the 40 cyclists and
but only one is counted at any given one moment. Yes.
200 laps.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
it was mayhem out there. I agree.
So I watched it, but I didn't have a clue what was going on. But there were a number of
the broadcasters. I think he's on the same lap as that guy. You know, like it's hard to keep track. By the way, lacrosse, we should make note, is the lacrosse sixes. It's a field lacrosse because it's, of course, the Americans that bring in. They love their field lacrosse there. We'll be good at it. I mean, Canadians do play field lacrosse, just not in the same numbers that Americans do or same ratios that Americans do. So that'll be interesting. And the shorter cricket that we were talking about, more countries do play this brand of cricket, and it is a hugely consumed product. To me, that one deserves to be there. Like it is a key sport of the world, like a large ratio of the world's population knows, loves, and even plays cricket. So to me, like my family's a field hockey family. When we're playing out in Surrey, it's right beside a cricket pitch. Like there's guys that are playing pickup cricket there all the time. Like cricket is consumed. Like I will say the cricket will be a big hit. And the T20 World Cup of cricket was just held this earlier this summer. We chatted a little bit about that here on the show. But it did wildly well in the United States. The United States hosted it, and it did really well. So I think we're going to like T20 cricket when it does eventually come. Squash, lacrosse, flag football, all there as options for you. Top story presented by Yellow Dog Brewing and Yellow Dog Spirits, Neighborhood Brewing, and Foolish Wines. Canada gets to 27 medals in Paris in the end. 9 gold, capped by, yes, the expected win by Phil Wizard, if you will, in breaking, an event that proved to be divisive among the sporting folks. And I got into several conversations with people about that. Hey, once they got to the semis, I'll admit, pretty fun to watch. I found the talent disparity early and right into the quarters even wildly disparate and unentertaining and even comedic at times.
Well, I mean, the competition itself had to bounce back from ray gun, right? Like,
yes,
ray gun lowered the bar.
Yes, Australian female competitor. You have to see it to believe it.
Oh, I think everybody's seen it by now. Yeah, if you didn't see the competition, you've seen the memes, the many memes that have been made from right. So honestly, like people are like, "What was that?" And why should I continue to watch? But then if you did hang with it, yeah, like look, Phil Wizard, I think, worked his way to the gold. Like I think he did what he had to do in the earlier rounds, kept his best stuff. I know that was part of the competition, that you weren't supposed to repeat moves. Or
you want to save some bullets, if you will. Yeah.
But I am telling you, Blake, Shiga Kicks got robbed. Shiga Kicks was the Japanese breaker. Honestly, to my eye, and look, I'm untrained. I still don't know what the judges were looking for, but as I watched there, I thought, like, Phil's in trouble here in the semi because Shiga Kicks was giving it. And then Phil Wizard wins. He advances to the gold medal. Well, Shiga had to dance for bronze. He got robbed. Like, he deserved a medal. I'm not going to get too worked up because our Canadian beat him, but I thought as I watched that semifinal that Shiga Kicks absolutely was the better of the two there. So
a sentence I would never have predicted to be coming from the one and only Jeff Patterson. I tell you, folks, Shiga Kicks was robbed. Amazing.
And then
another reason why you don't need to get too worked up about it.
No, but then Phil took care of it.
Phil,
he dusted Danny Dan the final.
Danny Dan.
Oh, I like Danny Dan's blue hair.
Another reason why Jeff doesn't need to get too worked up, but it isn't returning, folks. In 2028, breaking will not be an Olympic sport, which I think should quell some of the debate about it. Look, we have debated Olympic sports here for time eternum on this show, from dressage to ballroom dancing to what have you. I mean, hey, two-man luge had been ridiculed since it was brought into the fold. So this is not new to ridicule what they determined to be an Olympic sport. And the criteria that I kept, it takes so much athleticism. Almost every genre of dance. Have you seen what dancers look like? They are shredded physical specimens.
Well, breaking looked like it had branched off from basically the gymnastics floor routine. Like, there were guys that
rhythmic gymnastics is back in this year with ball and hoop.
Yeah.
Like, that's not an Olympic sport to me either. Like, that is ballet with props. And dance has competition. My daughters were Irish dancers. Like, I have a good friend who was second or third ranked in the world in Irish dancing. When she was at her peak, I mean, she looked like an Olympic soccer player. Like, that was the physique that you get out of Irish dance. No one's doubting how athletic you need to be to perform these sorts of things. But to me, it's art. It's not. Yeah. It's not an Olympic sport.
And that's where I come back to this argument about have world championships in all of these things.
Yeah.
But I just don't know that they need to be under the Olympic banner.
And you do risk things. I mean, we've seen it. How many times do we need to be taught that purely judged events are a serious risk of tampering and skullduggery, but also just it's so imperfect at that point. And yes, I know there are diving judges and ice skating judges. At least they are in the milieu that we know, like swimming and diving. Those are athletic endeavors that we have known for time eternum as sports per se. You have to buy sporting equipment to be a figure skater. You have to buy skates. That's at the sports store, So to me, there's the line. And hey, there's still a lot of Olympic sports that I think should go. But
and like I'm with you. I admire and respect the hell out of the amount of training and effort that goes in to being the best at anything. And so these people all put in the hours to get there. But like fencing, like there was a time there were sword fights in life.
Mm-hmm.
Not anymore. And I don't know that fencing, like I don't need fencing in my Olympics, but as the games grow and evolve, you add, but should you be subtracting as well from sports that have always been there and just kind of continue to be grandfathered into the Olympics? Again, these are decisions that are made at much higher levels than two guys at microphones here on the Sekeres Price Show. But I mean, like I could probably come up with a list of 20 sports that I don't think need to be there.
Yeah, exactly. There probably could be. We should mention some of the other weekend medals. Katie Vincent, gold in the canoe sprint. Marco,
that was great though. Like the 1/100th of a second.
It's great finish, and she had herself a great Olympics. To Katie Vincent, Marco Rourke. I mean, races, as he called it himself, the race of his life.
Canadian record, and
he still lost in the men's 800 meter. Lost one silver, but I mean, honestly, it was probably the width of a piece of string that separated him and the ultimate.
He had a strategy there. He hung back, and it worked for him in earlier heats. But yeah, in the end, just
and you think about where
stride.
So we got to 27 medals. We got to 9 gold, right on the precipice of double-digit golds, which would have been amazing. We got nothing from women's soccer. The 3 basketball teams all left empty-handed. And I don't know if you had asked me before the Olympics of those 4 teams, I'd say we'll probably get at least 2 medals out of that group.
Yep.
That would have been a pretty normal answer. We go 0 for 4 in those team events, and we still end up with the 27. So congrats to the Canadian athletes. Pretty amazing. Yellow Dog dropped another 10th anniversary beer release. The Foxy Summer Sour Cherry Hefeweizen is in collaboration with their friends at the world-famous Sea Fox and the Jeff O'Neill Show. Loaded with sour cherry and a hint of spice, it's a brew that will add a little zest to your day on the lake. And proceeds of that beer going to their friends at the BC SPCA. By the way, it's not the only sport that won't be back in 2028 breaking. maybe boxing won't be back at the Olympics in 2028, and nothing to do with popularity. Apparently, the boxing venue was jammed all the time, and nor American distaste for boxing. Are you kidding me? They love combat sports and boxing. The problem is the sport. They can't get their shit together. There's no governing body of the sport right now, per se, that can be relied upon. And this goes back to the Aman Khalif scenario and the shady Russian-run boxing federation, Russian finance boxing federation that initially came up with the claims of her validity. So if boxing cannot, and there is somebody trying to organize an organization, if you will, but if that doesn't fly, if that doesn't get off the ground, boxing might have to skip the games while they get their stuff together.
Which is too bad, because you think the last time the Olympics were in Los Angeles, 1984, Dale Walters, won a bronze, local guy, Sean O'Sullivan, Willie DeWitt.
The 80s were good for us in boxing.
Yeah. And so it just kind of feels like it would make perfect sense for boxing to be in an Olympics in Los Angeles. But as you said, dysfunction reigns in that sport, both the professional and the amateur ranks.
So anyways, that was fun. The Olympics providing us with a lot of content, a lot
Sugar
of joy.
Kicks was robbed, I'm telling you. I'm not letting this go.
Sugar Kicks was robbed. There is other stories today to get to, and in the aftermath of the BC Lions losing rather unceremoniously to the single victory Edmonton Elks, who are now a 2-victory Edmonton Elks team, and believe it or not,
suddenly breathing
just 3 wins back of the division lead, 33-16. Jake Dolegala, Chase Bryce both see action as quarterbacks with Vernon Adams out. Bryce incidentally went 4 for 4. Matt was saying last week he actually thinks Bryce is a better QB. Maybe he gets the look if the Lions don't airdrop Nathan Rourke in from the National Football League. Cut by the Atlanta Falcons was Nathan Rourke. It is at least 4 teams now in the National Football League over the course of the last 13, 14 months for Nathan Rourke. We don't know what's next for Nathan Rourke, but it's certainly intriguing. It's eyebrow raising at the very least for fans north of the border.
Yeah, I'll get to Rourke in a sec. Just quickly on the Lions, they were 5-1 at one point and looked like they were going to run away and absolutely be the favorite in a Grey Cup being hosted here in Vancouver in November. That was then. 3 straight losses, 3 losses all to divisional rivals as well, has absolutely brought teams like Edmonton and Calgary and Winnipeg that all kind of stumbled out of the gate right back into the mix here. So it's a bit of a mishmash at the midway mark. Lions are 5-4 now. It's not terrible, but it's at 5-1. It certainly looked like they would be better at the halfway point of their season. Now, people always say CFL season doesn't start till after Labor Day. There is an element of truth to that. We're a couple of weeks away from Labor Day. But if you're the BC Lions, you've got an injured quarterback. They're hoping that Vernon Adams is back. They're at home to Winnipeg. Should be a revenge game after getting shut out by the Bombers 2 weeks ago. But yeah, to go into Edmonton, a 1-win Elks team that has just been embroiled in controversy, have cleaned house, have gone through a bunch of quarterbacks, and even their starting quarterback, Trey Ford, got hurt, and so they had to go back to their former starting quarterback yesterday, and it just didn't matter. Like, the Lions can't tackle, which is, I mean, ultimately that's the fundamentals of football. And Rick Campbell didn't sound very happy afterwards, and you can understand why. So Lions have some issues here. They've still got time on their side. I'm not writing them off, but we always say this when we get to mid-August, Blake, is that, and I tweeted something out about the Lions' loss yesterday, and my timeline is flooded with, well, the Seahawks are starting. Oh, I'm going to watch the NFL. You know, this is the danger for the BC Lions. You do all that good work early. Amar Doman has done wonders as an owner and will continue to do wonders as an owner. But ultimately, the team on the field has to hold up its end of the bargain, too. And if people are going to go and pay money to see the Lions, they want to be entertained. They got shut out in Winnipeg, only 16 points against a bad Edmonton team. They've got some things to sort out. Now, getting Vernon Adams back will help without a doubt. But
how back would he be even if he got onto the field?
Fair enough. But also, we're getting to that point of the calendar. We always say it, like right after Labor Day. It's not just the NFL. Baseball into the pennant races. You can smell hockey in the air, and Young Stars is a month away now. The Whitecaps have kind of been quiet here with their schedule. Like, this was a time for the BC Lions to sort of rise up here and try to capture the market. And instead, they're going in the wrong direction now. There's time to correct it. There is, but absolutely there's some red flags of concern for me around this football team that started the season so well.
And this is, as you said, not only is what's coming, this is your time to sell tickets and that sort of thing. And 3 losses in a row is bad. You can lose back-to-back games and then bounce back and I think get people's imagination back. With a bye week, it's a month of losing.
Yeah. And they've got that home game, but over on the island coming up here. So it's kind of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
They're at home to Winnipeg this week. That feels like a crucial game for the BC Lions just to get back in the win column, get things moving in the right direction. They don't have to worry about selling tickets to Touchdown Pacific because it's only 14,000 people and the tickets are spoken for. But again, not many home games for the BC Lions at BC Place. The next time, or by the time Labor Day rolls around, you don't want to be going out trying to sell tickets for a team that's all of a sudden on this massive slide. But
you know what would sell tickets? Nathan Rourke would sell tickets.
And I think it's coming down to crunch time for him to make a decision about his career. And I get chasing the dream. I do. I totally get it. But as you said, he's been through 4 NFL teams now. Got cut by the Falcons over the weekend. Got a quarter of action on Friday, and I saw some highlights. Looked all right. But he just can't get over that hump of getting a realistic, legitimate shot to be a backup in the National Football League. And this is a guy that was an MOP here in Canada. We know that. We all know the story. But he's also 26 now. Time marches on.
Yeah.
And you just wonder if he wouldn't be better served playing, starting, getting regular reps, come back this side of the border, make as much money as you can. And I'm sure that's part of the issue here is if he can get on an NFL roster, even if he doesn't see the field, he's still making more than he's likely to make as a CFL quarterback. But he's without a team right now. This isn't about him being on a roster and not getting a shot. He was cut by the Falcons. He is a free agent right now. And at 26, we've seen this with Casey Printers 15 years ago. You can do everything possible in the Canadian Football League and still not be able to get over that hump south of the border. And so I just wonder at 26 if it's not time for Nathan Rourke to come back.
I don't begrudge guys that are on an NFL practice roster and say, hey, the money is just too good here. I'm going to stay here. I get that. But also how you get to that NFL practice roster matters as well. If you're a journeyman that has dabbled in the league a little bit, in the NFL, and at the age of 30, you're on an NFL practice roster making your hundreds of thousands of dollars, well, good on you. These are the prime years of Nathan Rourke's career. He'll never be in better shape, in a better place to execute than right now. And he's given it a pretty good college try, if you will, in the NFL up until this point. Now, we've talked about this, Matt and I, in terms of when other talent might shake loose. Generally speaking, you don't give up on August 12th. Generally speaking, you give up September 5th, September 12th, as rosters shake out and guys figure out who they like and who they don't. NFL journeymen generally stick it out for another 3 to 4 weeks. So maybe we wait. Maybe Nathan Rourke waits, more importantly. But at the same time, if Nathan Rourke wants to come back, that's the other thing. It's not just about the Lions.
For sure. Yep.
And we are in, I won't say it's a dark age of CFL quarterbacks, but it's not exactly the best era of CFL quarterbacks right now. The CFL needs Nathan Rourke. There's not a lot of star power right now, which is sort of why Trey Ford is fun in Edmonton, because Canadian guy is so athletic. He's fun to watch. There's something fun there at the pivot position, but there's not a lot of fun electric quarterbacks. Vernon Adams is one of them. But yeah, the Lions don't have his services, and I wonder if Vernon Adams is ever in tip-top shape the rest of the season. So that's the concern there for the BC Lions after that game versus the Edmonton Elks is after a 5-1 season. We've seen it go the other way. We've seen the Lions lose 5 in a row, 0-5, and come back and win a Grey Cup. You don't want to see the flip side of that. A 5-1 start only to see them, scuttle a season. It was only Friday Nathan Rourke was in preseason action for Atlanta. The 21-yard run that he goes on, spectacular for Nathan Rourke. Would you have confidence that he gets a fair shake everywhere he goes? We'll talk to Farhan about this later.
Yeah, and Farhan's got a much better feel for it.
Yeah.
It just, to me, it feels like there's politics at play, and I don't get it because pro sports, any pro sport, it's a bottom line business. Like if you can find a guy that can help you and make you a better team, then you should want that guy on your roster. And I just feel like Nathan Rourke is a better quarterback than so many of the guys that continue to get opportunity after opportunity after opportunity in the NFL. And for whatever reason, he just can't get his looks.
To this point, to this day, his best look was with the Jacksonville Jaguars, where they put him into a couple of preseason games. Threw the football. Looked good.
I had that one highlight reel scramble.
Yeah.
He got and was the talk of the NFL for a weekend.
He was. And certainly the talk of Jacksonville camp. And how, at the still young age of 26, nobody has given him an extended look, given him a number of downs. I don't know. It's just the problem, I think, is that when you're evaluating talent like that as a coach, a staff of coaches, you cut lines so fine that you eventually end up at a bunch of ties. That guy's they're pretty neck and neck, those two players, and I wonder if that's where, even if it's a subconscious bias
to the guy that's been there and done it, and yeah. But at 26, I would say at this time next year, if he is still, holding out hope on the dream, he's going to be looked at as old, right? He's too old now. There's younger guys. We'll take a chance on them.
I don't think there's a chance we're talking about him bouncing around NFL camps this time next year. He's either hooked in, and he might have been hooked in early in camp, like in August, and he's just staying in NFL camps. I don't think he's bouncing around for another summer. He's either in an NFL camp legitimately, or he's back in the Canadian Football League. But we'll see which of those ends up being the case. I don't think he would want to do that, and I don't think there's going to be the appetite or the interest if he doesn't start playing some football. At that age, you have to play football. And we talk about this in Canucks circles as well. It's why the debate about Artur Shilovs as the backup is there. You need to play hockey. Like Artur Shilovs needs to play hockey. Him sitting on the bench for 62 games doesn't make any sense for the Vancouver Canucks. So similar sort of arguments in a lot of sporting realms. Speaking of the Vancouver Canucks, not a lot of news, but there is arena news. The Canucks are getting new seats in Rogers Arena. The Canucks are not doubling back on that, but late last week we found out probably not happening this summer. They only had promised that they would be done by the end of next summer.
Right.
And they say, hey, we're still making good. Patrick Johnson doing some reporting on this. It's still going to happen by the deadline, the self-imposed deadline of next summer. But they're just going to do it in one big wave rather than two waves. I think most people are into the maybe one entire lower bowl and then upper bowl or what have you, however the order they wanted. It sounds like they're just going to gut everything.
Well, they put out a press release in March announcing, I think, is this phase 2 or 3 of hundreds of millions of dollars that they're pumping back into Rogers Arena. Last year, they built that ultra swanky lounge between the locker rooms, and there were some the score clock, the brand new Jumbotron.
Yeah.
They promised, a 2-year project to replace all the seats, but there was a line in the press release that said work would begin at the conclusion of this season. And so I think the 2-year window is doing a fair bit of heavy lifting
to absolve them from that clause.
Yeah, because this seems like a delayed start. Now, there was a story making the rounds that they had found a supplier and were moving ahead, and the supplier ultimately either went out of business or couldn't fulfill the obligation, and that kind of set them back and forced them to look to plan B and maybe even plan C. Whatever the case, people that have gone to concerts throughout the summer have been noting
same old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And here we are now on the
Emphasis
cusp of
on
Labor
old.
Day. Before you know it, they're going to need all of those seats for hockey games mid-September or late September for the preseason. And so, yeah, it certainly sounds like, and Patrick in his reporting confirming that, yeah, probably getting pushed to next summer now.
I could just see it. They found a new supplier for the seats. And if you've ever done upholstering of furniture at home and you're trying to match it to something else, it's always just a little bit different. And they've already got the little bit of a difference between the super Uber seats right behind the bench. But remember, they changed a bunch of the seats around the Uber seats, if you will, the President's Club seats. And so there's already two different looking seats. They're going to add a third different look if they get a different supplier. Might look a little, I don't know, black kind of melds into each other, I suppose, but might look a little bit ramshackled, if you will. The menu for today's show brought to you by Greta Bar YVR, 50 West Cordova. I love being the cool dad. I got the request from my daughter. Can you get us on the guest list for Greta? Folks.
And did you?
I did, yeah.
All right.
But there was room anyway. You can be a part of the fabulous crowded Greta Bar YVR. It's a great night, even in the middle of summer. Even when there's not a game to watch, you become the game. Go to 50 West Cordova and check out Greta Bar YVR. TSN's Farhan Lalji will join us. This is right up his alley. Perfect timing in the wake of the Lions lost to the Elks, and also a chance to weigh in on football at the Olympics. I'm assuming he's going to be voting football in the poll question. Those on pod get hashtags, of course, as well, the best and worst of Twitter. And yes, I'll continue to call it that just to piss off Elon. And a couple of golf tidbits in there as the playoffs are set to begin in golf. I mean, not a lot of people get amped up about the playoffs in golf.
Yeah. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do, but it just, for me, they just feel like, with all these elevated events now, it just feels like 3 more elevated events at the end of the season.
Yeah, you're trimming off the fields, though.
Yep.
You know, I'm starting to buy into it a little bit. Not completely enraptured by it. I will finish the show with our errors and omissions, plus a smidge on the Whitecaps and the Canadians, who are now on the road. But get your tickets for next Tuesday at the Nat at CanadiansBaseball.com. They'll be taking on Everett.
Vancouver Canadians are back at the Nat. Catch fireworks, giveaways, and Friday nooners all spring and summer long. Get your tickets at CanadiansBaseball.com.
Best Bets brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of Sekeres in Price. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at a baseball future here. There's about 40 games to go in the Major League Baseball season. Seattle Mariners and Houston neck and neck atop the American League West. If you like the Mariners to win the division outright, you can get them at 220. They won 4 in a row, so they're starting to pick things up again. But they're going to be in a battle, obviously, probably down to the wire with Houston. Houston is favored, but you can get the Mariners at 220 to win the AL West outright.
I'm going to Scotty Scheffler as the playoffs begin here. Did you watch it? Speaking of watching golf or watching the Olympics and sports that belong or don't belong, where are you on golf? Because I neither watched any of the Olympic golf, nor was I motivated to watch Olympic golf, and I love watching golf, but it's a funny nuance for me.
And it was one of those things too, because in the States, NBC and Peacock own the rights, so the Golf Channel basically was gone for 2 weeks in this country.
Yeah.
So it was hard to find golf unless you had CBC Gem. They cut in on occasion on the main network, but it's one of those things. I mean, you're looking at
it's a long
4 or
sport,
5 hour rounds of golf.
Yeah.
So I didn't see a lot of golf, and you know me, like love to play, love to watch, consume a lot of golf, but it was difficult over the air, like unless you had the app and then you could hand pick what you wanted to watch. Anyways, I didn't see a lot of golf.
No, neither did I. Scotty Scheffler cried on the podium, though. Meant a lot to him. And I think he's pretty much in the zone right now. It is shocking.
It's been a year.
The betting favorite that he is on a day-by-day basis. So he's at plus 375 to win the FedEx St. Jude. Xander Schauffele's second favorite at plus 800. I mean, that is getting towards Tiger level of favoritism. But as it pertains to Scheffler, something that's kind of fun and doesn't mean you have to see him at the end of the tournament in first place. He just has to play in the final pairing on Sunday. Scotty Scheffler playing in the final pairing on Sunday gets me a plus 260, a little more conservative than getting him to win outright. He might have a small hangover from the Olympics win. So I backed off on that just a little bit for his sake. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the sport, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary. At Bet365, use code VANBONUS. Lots coming up, including Farhan Lalji. Stick around. You know, normally when we talk about Greta Bar YVR, we're telling you to make it a game night at Greta, and we're talking about hockey. Of course, we're not quite yet at hockey season, but game night can mean whatever it means, and that could mean soccer or football game to watch on the screen or your own games, because the arcade is half the fun at Greta Bar YVR. Make it your game night at 50 West Cordova. And of course, great food and drink specials. And you can also make it a late game night, as they're open late every single night. So make it a late game night, your game night at Greta Bar YVR, 50 West Cordova. All right, our next guest, you know and love him from TSN, of course. And on a day like this where there's so much to talk about and so much local stuff to talk about as well, it's a perfect time for Farhan Lalji. And Farhan, we didn't even know that we would be, we booked this before Nathan Rourke got cut. We didn't even know that was going to happen. So now the file got even bigger for today. So we hope you've got a couple hours to talk about this.
Absolutely. As long as we're not talking.
All right, our next guest, you know and love him from TSN, of course. And on a day like this where there's so much to talk about and so much local stuff to talk about as well, it's a perfect time for Farhan Lalji. And Farhan, we didn't even know that we would be, we booked this before Nathan Rourke got cut. We didn't even know that was going to happen. So now the file got even bigger for today. So we hope you've got a couple hours to talk about this.
Absolutely. As long as we're not talking hockey in August, because that's in my contract. We're good, right? Like I've gotten to, I'm kind of at the point now, because I love listening to you and Sekeres. I love listening to JPAT even more. But I feel like I've got to tone down my content level, because you guys are just talking way too much hockey. I know your focus groups demand it.
Yes,
but you're listening to them. You're not listening